Ireland have always been a team led by a powerful figurehead at fly half. Whether it was Ulsterman David Humphreys, 13-year international career of Ronan O'Gara, or the 118 international caps of Jonathan Sexton. However, since Johnny Sexton's retirement, nobody has been able to make the shirt their own. Now, 1 year out from the next Rugby World Cup, two clear young candidates are battling it out. But does Andy Farrell need to make a decision and back one man, as has always been the Irish way? In this video, myself and Ronan O'Gara break down the options at 10, how Ireland want to play, and whether they should stick or twist with their selection policy. Hello and welcome back to a special edition of the Rugby Pod, a deep dive into the Irish 10 debate with a man who wore that jersey for 13 years, Ronan O'Gara.
So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you subscribe on Spotify. Key question for Ireland at the minute seems to be the decision around who gets the 10 jersey.
Yep, few contenders. Sam Prendergast, Jack Crowley, and Harry Byrne's name's been thrown in there. I'm not quite sure if his name, it would be a surprise if he starts in that Six Nations opener against France, no?
Maybe not in the ground. I think there's a live threat. He's liked in Leinster, and I think the move to Bristol did him an awful lot of good. I think from, you need to play 3 out of 4 games if you want to develop as a 10, and he wasn't getting that. You go back to him even a few years ago on a horrible day in La Rochelle when they came over. He was actually 10 and he ran the show really well.
You said that, didn't you? You said that you saw a bit of development in him in that sense.
And he came up with it was horrendous conditions with a brilliant pass to unlock us. And he's waiting in the long grass, but I think this guy is way more sure of himself, and that's essentially how 10s grow.
But if we're talking about probably the main, or certainly if we'll touch on Harry Byrne at the end again, but sort of Sam Prendergast, I think from an attacking point of view, when Ireland have control, when they have possession, he raises that ceiling, and he's got the ability to make Ireland tick even more. One thing I would say is when they don't have possession and when they don't have control of a game, he becomes a point in which oppositions can get into the game with his potential defensive frailties, with his...
Which is more likely to happen at Test level as opposed to Leinster level, because they're very dominant and the machine rolls beautifully, and he has a little extra second to pull the strings. But like when you look at the difference in quality in a URC or even a European Cup game to Test animals, it's very, very different.
He probably suits Ireland's philosophy of Ireland are a high possession team, so he's got lots of options at the line. The bottom line is he's got a really nice passing variety in his game, high ball movement, so you can see how often he sort of turns that corner, squares up, gets hit quite often when he's putting people through. Highest break assist in terms of out of the 3 of them. So he's got a long kicking game as well.
Yeah, and his passing game.
Yeah,
we probably passed over that too quickly. It's at this stage you'd put it in the. It's nearly exquisite.
Yeah,
it's too easy just to kind of go his passing game, but like 20 to 30 meters off either hand comfortably to put it out in front of because when you analyze him, you're kind of going, okay, well, he's going to take the ball to the line. He can play blindside winger on a zoom or on a shoulder ball. He can play as 12 or a 13 on a bounce, but actually sometimes he's playing missing the 3 of them to 15, and you're like, we haven't covered that this week.
He would be someone who goes at defenses, though, isn't he? In terms of, he's not the guy who's sort of quite lateral. He's quite aggressive in terms of going at the defense as well.
That's where I would probably have a different view to a lot of people, in the fact I think he goes to the line, but I don't think he's yet at that development in his game that he'll take the hole.
Which in terms of being aggressive, playing in that next hole.
Well, you mean the greatest of the great, Dan Carter's capacity to stay square at the line, engage defenders and pick his pass or go through, which what made him really special. Prendergast has an unbelievable passing game and he can engage defenders, but the last step for me would be to take the hole, because he plants.
Yeah. He almost wants to bring other people into play, doesn't he?
Exactly, because of that capacity to pick a pass, which is so good. So that's his
go-to. That's
point
his
of
super
difference.
strength.
While you look at Jack Crowley, who's probably a more natural runner and looks more like a 12 playing as a 10. But if you're the coach, you don't really want that. You want your 10 as a 10 and managing, and the running and the other elements of your game come after. But it all, I think that's where the interesting debate, Dan, is if you look at, you know what I mean, a French plan on a Sunday night or a Monday night to beat Ireland as opposed to Ireland's plan, it's chalk and cheese. The way Ireland is detail, structure, preparation, repetition, tempo, everyone knowing their role. The French will go for more. Let's play and what's in front of us,
in those transition periods,
and keep the ball alive, and okay with error, high error, but devastating on turnover, and essentially get the ball to the two boys on the wing and we'll score.
I think Prendergast is the one probably Ireland want. I think they want to play him at 10, don't they? In terms of they've obviously given him a bit of us. You know, if you look at that that France game last Six Nations,
because if we, as you said, and you know, we're in the dark a bit as we see the game at the weekend. When you're coaching, you see the skills session, the Monday session, the Tuesday morning session, the what he's doing on a skills day on a Wednesday, the Thursday, the Friday. So like we probably see 10% of what their capabilities are. But I think no, you can't say that Ireland want to play Sam.
But if you look at France, that France game last Six Nations, which feels like a bit of a pivotal moment in terms of in that 10 debate and probably Irish rugby in a sense as well. Pre that France game, or leading up to that France game, Prendergast played 6 out of 6. So the 6 games previously he started. The 6 games after that France game, Crowley started for them. So you sort of think, right, well, was that a big pivotal moment in terms of can Ireland play? You know, when can Sam Prendergast play in those games when they're really up against it and going to be tested with potentially 30% possession and territory and up against guys like Morfana?
It changes very quickly, because I think if you go 12 months previously, which we have to because we're talking about test players, there was a Jack Crowley show in Marseille where Ireland had lost the irreplaceable Johnny Sexton. But because of what Jack had done in picking up the baton.
That pained you to say that then, didn't it?
No. But, that's why obviously this debate is ongoing, because you're trying to replace a great and it's really, really difficult, but you got to give these guys that are trying to do it space and time and development. But like Jack Crowley in that game, it was like, we have our guy. But you mean because he's from Munster and Cork, and I like him and I tried to sign him, you're like, come on, Jack, I need more. I need you to close this out. But for whatever reason, in that France game in Dublin, whoever's playing 9 and 10, you're getting tonked.
That maybe is the crux of maybe finishing up on Sam Prendergast in terms of what super strengths are. He's very comfortable directing the attack. Lovely passing game, variety of his passing game, short balls, long balls, over the top, long kicking game, which Ireland rely on heavily as well to put pressure on in the opposition half. He does raise their ceiling in the attacking game, but you more than anyone will know that Test rugby isn't always like that, and you have to roll your sleeves up on your defensive game and your game management and your ability to potentially get your team over the line when you have got 30-35% possession in games. That's almost as important as the lovely stuff that we see from Prendergast, is it not?
Yeah, it is. But also I think there's easy solutions in that regard too. Is like you'd be looking for Gibson Park to take a lot of those responsibilities, not to defend from, obviously. I think, as I certainly know, like, you're not asking him to make dominant hits, but all you want him to do, and he did it against La Rochelle in that game in Dublin, to be honest, he made leg tackles. And that gives confidence to everyone. So like that means that if he can achieve that, the boys will want to play with him. if the team is conceding 2 tries and it's down to a kind of a one-on-one tackle, no matter who you are, the boys get frustrated with you.
Yeah, and that's kind of like, I suppose maybe finishing up on Prendergast is if he misses 3 points, which everyone does, forget about that, misses a kick or misses a tackle, which 2 tackles, which costs your team 12 points. Does he have enough from the attacking side of his game to compensate for that? Because I think he multiplies the control Ireland have when they have it, but he potentially adds some pressure on Ireland when they don't. Because I think basically I think it's an interesting one, because probably if you molded the two, if you put Jack Crowley's defensive game in amongst Sam Prendergast's attacking game, you probably have got a pretty good player, haven't you?
But we're not talking real here.
No.
We gotta stay on task with this. I think the coaches that are available to Prendergast, there is no way I think they will be allowing a young player freebies in defence. That has to be eliminated. And I have seen already, to be fair, because he's aware, and once you're aware of something, you can fix it.
Yeah,
he has got better in the last few games. So like, it's too harsh to tar him that he's not interested in tackling. That's inaccurate.
I think
you didn't say that.
He puts himself out there. It's just
I think that you can't kind of, for me anyway, in trying to constructing a win, you can't be kind of going, well, he's with his passing game, he'll get us 17 points, but defensively he'll cost us 12, so we're +5. For me, at test level, every point is worth fighting over.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's where it becomes so interesting, this debate, because I don't have enough images or data or performances of, we'll say, Harry Byrne. I do of Jack Crowley, because I can, and maybe that's why there's an imbalance in my head, in the fact that kind of when you want something to happen, you see it differently.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see him. But like, in terms of, you know, Jack has it all, but he can't put it together on the day that matters. What is that? I remember actually, it was brilliant, and you'll appreciate this. Padraig Harrington came into camp to talk about just preparation, you know. And oh my God, the level of detail he went into in terms of the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. And you know, from kicking, and well, I'm a lot older than you, but like with, you mean, Dave Alred or Mark Tainton are the best kicking coaches in the world. You get to a stage actually where this, by the toss judges, doesn't satisfy you. You know, the talk is you want to be hitting the middle of the middle and your 3-iron, and you know what I mean, you visualize the hoop in the middle of the post and you want to see the ball going through that, and if it's not top pocket contact, you're not at it. And then that's the mind playing of the games with you, because like, you look at Jack in Toulon and goal kicking in a hostile environment was beautiful. Then he goes home to Thomond Park against Cast, and he's
in a game where they lose by a couple of points, which is
and
not
like
always the case, but
there's mishits and there's mishits. But one of them like went about 30 meters wide of the target. You're like, so that's a big malfunction.
But if we look at moving on to sort of Crowley, I say if we gave it maybe a bit of an overall picture, definitely defensively more solid. Puts a lot of, you know, I think he was 18 tackles against Leinster at the Aviva back in October or whatever it was. I think he lowers Ireland's ceiling slightly from an attacking point of view, but what he does, I think he raises their floor. So on a day where they haven't got things going their own way, I think you get a lot more of a test performance from him in that sense, in terms of, feels like a bit of a big moment player as well, in terms of, he had some big moments in terms of the drop goals to win matches at the end of games. That performance against Leinster at the Aviva, where he sort of rolled his sleeves up, kicking game. I don't think he's not, for me, he's not in, you know, when you're in multi-phase, he's not really like, he's a different player to Prendergast. He's not challenging the line every phase. He's not looking to pick people off all the time. His running threat is a bit more in that broken field scenario where it's whether it be from kick receipt, whether it be from transition periods where he's got good footwork and but I feel like his point of difference is that he doesn't probably need Ireland to dominate, or the teams he plays in, he probably doesn't need them to dominate as much as potentially Prendergast does to get the best out of him.
I would, probably completely contradict you. I think he's a guy who will absolutely be different when he gets his confidence.
So you think it's just a full confidence thing?
But like, he's playing with Munster.
Yeah.
Munster are struggling. Munster under Jack Crowley, I suppose,
but at the start
they had an interim coach with Mike Prendergast, it was clear how they played. They played attacking rugby.
Yeah.
They were very, very interesting with the ball. There was a different feel about them. They go and win a competition. Now you can see that there's mixed messaging, I would think. Way harder to do what Jack is trying to do in the test arena.
Agreed.
But like, how does he build up his bank of confidence? It's usually from club games. But like the club games, it isn't happening for him, and he's probably trying a bit hard. He's pushing it, he's forcing it, and he's making errors that may potentially cost him starting a Six Nations.
But if you look at before the autumn series, he was in really good form for Munster. Munster I think they were like 5 from 6 or 6 from 6, maybe going into the autumn in the league. And he got the nod against the All Blacks in Chicago. Then he played against Japan, and they were, Ireland were a bit sticky and weren't quite hitting the straps. And then Prendergast came in for the last couple. So I suppose in terms of all I think we're realizing that, the threats and the weaknesses and the strengths that these guys have got. As a coach, do you have to, at some point, go all in on someone, whether that's Crowley, whether that's Prendergast, whether that's Byrne, or is it horses for courses in terms of, can Crowley be better suited to England away, France away, and give Prendergast more of a license in those home games where they're going to have more control? Or do you need to go and say, you're my man? Because like you said, Rog, Monday to Friday, we don't see that.
No, but
the rest of the team, and better than anyone, you want someone leading the team Monday to Friday.
Like I see so many parallels between Ireland and La Rochelle.
Well, I was going to ask you, because when you won your two...
In that situation, you know what the answer is as a player, that you need to play.
Yeah.
Then how do you keep two others on the boil without hurting their feelings, essentially? You're going to hurt their feelings because you can only essentially play two every time. So one isn't even in the group. So you have to pick his jaw up off the floor. So he's not even in a mental state to kick a ball. Never mind play a game, because he's dealing. That's the really challenging emotional side of it.
But if I challenge you on that, the 2 European Cups that you won with La Rochelle, would it be fair to say you had a starting 10 for each of those years, in terms of that was they were the guys who played and were I wouldn't necessarily say that the fulcrum or the focal point of your team, but they were a constant.
All the years are mixed up in my head. and that, honestly, that's what happens, because imagine we lose, is it Victor Vito 6 days before our final, and we lose Carbarlo a few days before it, and you're kind of going to play. But for me, that's the thing, the most important element in the game is the kind of hidden confidence. Going to Marseille, we had the feeling it didn't matter who was playing. We're going to get the job done. And now it's a different feeling, and that's what you're trying to work with. And for Ireland, because they were number one in the world, it feels like they're trying to push water back up a hill, and it's the same, because you can't win a European Cup every year, but like once you've tasted it, you're like, oh, that is so good. Please let that happen again. But it's probably not gonna, and then you're trying to not be ratty.
Do you think that the position Ireland are in at the minute, they have to make a call on somebody, or can they afford building up to a World Cup?
No, because I think that's what great management is, and I think Ireland have been blessed with Farrell in that regard. That's where he excels, is kind of looking at a guy. You can nearly know from a person's walk in a player whether he's strutting or whether he's lost his mojo. Jack is a little bit down in the dumps. He needs to be picked up. Sam is young and he has a massive future ahead of him. And Harry Byrne is pushing him out of Leinster, and they're competing for that. So I'm not going away, guys. So this is part of the green jersey as well as the blue jersey. How is this going to play out? I would say, as you say, as a coach, you have to give an advantage to one guy, but at test level, it's very rare, if possibly impossible, to kind of give him just 3 games.
Free reins, yeah.
You know, and that's what I try and tell a lot of the young players now. There's a difference between my time and their time is, and I do this, and it's not good. I was able to make mistakes, and I get picked for Munster in Ireland because there wasn't competition.
Sam Prendergast and Jack Crowley going onto the field potentially thinking, oh, well, I know that if I don't play perfectly, for argument's sake, and perfectly is not the right word to use, but if I don't have a really good game or if I make some errors, I know that potentially the following week I'm going to be out. So
yeah, now we're getting stuck into a real conversation
because for me, I found when I played, and I didn't want to just be picked for just all the time, even if I was playing poorly or whatever. But I found that if I got told effectively, you know if it's your team or not, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You know if it's your team as a 10, and you know that if you've got control of the team or if you haven't got control of the team. I felt as soon as I had control of that team and control of the coaches, that my performances went that way, and I stopped worrying about making mistakes, and I stopped worrying about the odd bad game because I knew that I had the team. Yeah. So I think for me, that's the big thing. It's like
just straight away, the obvious question is, okay, so you're preparing for a World Cup then, and it's your team. You've got the team, you've got the coaches, but 6 months out, you do your cruise ship. What do I do as a coach?
Yeah, it's a really good point.
So
actually,
in terms of a top 14, there's 30 games without playoffs, and then there's European Cup. You can't give the keys to one guy. That's exactly where, they say you need your group. Test level is different because you need to get a focus of 12 games. And that works where essentially, you know your starters, you know your finishers. But from a coaching point of view, I kind of understand how you need to give the starting 10 the confidence he needs. But
without
then,
knocking the other guy completely.
As a coach, what happens if there's sickness on the morning of the game? He's ran the week. Oh, brilliant, he's ran the week. But everyone should be interchangeable. And it's still the challenge of every good coach.
Is it? I think though, you look at the other teams and they are quite set on their 10s, aren't they? In the Six Nations.
Probably. Oh well, no. You're living in France. Have you've been?
But you know that if Intermac was fit, probably for those first couple of games, he starts for France.
I would have been that belief, but there was big time pumping of Jalibert going on.
I'm not saying that I think everyone can clearly see Jalibert is a world-class operator, all the skills, but does he fit into the way that France play? So I suppose that going back to the Irish question is everyone else seems, and that goes back a little bit back to you, there's been clamouring for Jalibert to start for France over Intermac for 12, 18 months. But the coaches in France have resisted that urge because they've said, okay, this is not saying this is Roman's team, but he runs the week, he runs the same. But maybe now your point is really valid that Jalibert coming into that team maybe hasn't had enough exposure of international rugby and being the leader in that team. So I think that linking it back to these guys in the Irish jersey, I think your point is really valid in terms of that. Do they have to just almost get themselves to the same level or sort of get themselves matched ready for the World Cup in 18 months?
Big asterisk too. I don't think Jalibert's form has been anywhere near as good as it is currently. Yep. I think his last 6 months has been extraordinarily good. Like he's ripping it up for Bordeaux. In the past there was glimpses, Dan, but for me, he's taken it to a whole new level now. In nearly every game, he's making the difference. Before
I can tell you now, Sean Edwards, if he tries one of those chip and chases and it doesn't come off, and Ireland go 7 points under the sticks, he'd be having a
and then that's what you love about them. Then he'll kind of go, well, I'll score off the next 3 of them.
Yeah.
That's which you like about them, because as you say, I'm exactly like you. We'll go for the chip over, but you don't control the rebound on the chip. But they'll be there. It's okay. We'll get it.
maybe just touching on Harry Byrne, probably not as spectacular as the other two, but a really nice sort of quite nuts and bolts player. Does the basics, good goal kicker. He's probably given the kicking responsibilities if he's on the field, isn't he? When even when Prendergast is on the pitch, not as much of a running threat. He's not as connected in that system in terms of the
maybe because we haven't seen enough of him.
Yeah, I think that's what I think. I think it would be. We're touching on Harry Byrne. I think his progress has been excellent since his loan to Bristol, but
because he's played, isn't it?
Exactly.
So it actually makes a strong argument that young tens need to play. They need to play, and I think the three of them, because of the way the Irish players are so well managed too, they're probably borderline in not playing enough.
Yeah.
You know yourself, you need to play. Well, especially at that age, you need to make mistakes. You need to get out there again and you kind of go, okay, I need to do that better. And that only happens by being in the seat. And, I think it's obviously interesting because you got two of them in the one club. 2 into 1 doesn't go. Or maybe 50-30 goes. In the 50 minutes for one of them, 30 for the other.
Do you see a scenario where they could potentially both be on the pitch at the same time in terms of using Prendergast's passing ability and his ability to dictate play and be a second receiver potentially in that 15 channel, in terms of if they bring Harry Byrne on, if they bring Jack Crowley on, type of thing? Can they both be on the field at the same time?
Like if you're going 6-2, I think Jack Crowley has a big advantage because he can play 10, 12, 15 at test level, and he's done it repetitively. If you're going 5-3, Jack Crowley probably has a big advantage because you pick a 9, you pick him on the bench with a Sam or a Harry and an outside back. So, but the scenario of it being Sam Prendergast starting, Harry Byrne off the bench is still also an option.
If you're picking an offense, you're probably picking Sam Prendergast. I just think, can he add enough to the defensive side of his game? And like you said, he's improved massively, but can he add enough? Or can Ireland protect him as well? Does he have to be in that front line?
No, he doesn't. No, you can.
You see a lot of players. I remember we played against Bernard Foley, who stood at the front of the lineup.
Yeah.
And then he'd get himself back to the short side, where there's not as much heavy traffic and you don't have to put yourself in there. So could Ireland stumble on a scenario where they think, well, do you know what? We may have to just maneuver or try something different in that space until another 12 months, 18 months of working on that defensive side of the game. And I do think, though, and I'd be interested to get your quick thoughts on this. I think who they pick, because I honestly can't sit here and say it's going to be him or him or him. But I think who they pick will be a reflection on whether Ireland think they can get dominance in a game. And I think how much possession, dominance, etc. I think that would be a bit of a tell. This Six Nations, we're teaming up with Vodafone, the nation's network and proud partner of Welsh Rugby, to bring fans closer to the game. We'll be doing a massive Rugby Pod live show in Cardiff with some Welsh legends, past and present. We have 96 Nations match tickets to give away on the pod for Wales versus Scotland men's and women's. And I'm going to be taking some fans behind the scenes at Principality Stadium with me for a private tour. We want Welsh fans to send us in your inspiring stories. Who deserves the match tickets? So fans who've done something special, have overcome challenges, or have given back to the community. You can also register at ticketpass.org to get tickets to the Cardiff live event with myself, Big Jim, Warren Gatlin, Philippa Tuttiett, and Jack Morgan. And a massive thanks to Vodafone for helping us bring fans closer to the game.
You know the criteria. It's Stade de France first game.
Yeah.
So, how do you build a game for that? Because that's a hell of an opening, and maybe it's a good time to face France because they haven't had a game together. Because the more time France spend in camp, the better they're going to be. That's for sure. We know, and now their program is obviously a little bit more favourable towards international players, with a little bit more recovery time and getting weeks off. So France will, I think the time to play France is the first game to get an entry into this competition. But if you're looking to dominate possession against France, that'll be quite difficult because they do get their hands on the ball. And like once Dupont is on the pitch, I just feel that he's playing a different game to everyone else at the minute.
Yeah. Don't think anyone's disagreeing with that.
Yeah, but then, you know, as a coach, it's like, how do you stop that? You know, if you try and double and triple mark him, he's just going to make a fool of you because he'll play somewhere else. Then if you kind of rush him, he's going to kick.
And that's kind of the thing is, you would expect that in looking at Ireland's games, you would expect them to have the toughest time in terms of possession and physicality battles against probably England away and France away, wouldn't you? On paper,
and it's probably two different games. I think Ireland's kind of structure and phase game and tempo causes France problems. As you say, that kind of retaining the ball but denting the gain line as opposed to being dented back on the gain line, that'll make the 2 or 3 meters difference for whoever plays 9 and 10. Are you on a neutral playing field, or are you on the front foot? You yourself, if you're creeping a little bit forward in attack, it makes all the difference.
It's a different game.
Yeah,
it's a different game. And just mentioning on that, like how do Ireland play? They're a sort of a high possession, multi-phase team, aren't they? They want to throw, but they want to do it in the right areas. They're not going to be doing that 30 meters from their own line. They want to pressure you with their kicking game. So they'll need, especially against France, you're going to need a long kicking game because France will just send it long. So Ireland are a team who have high possession, or want high possession, want multi-phase. So they're looking to throw as many shapes at your defensive line as possible, time after time, so that you make bad reads, or you step in, or you double up, and then someone pops through a hole.
Probably a big emphasis on fitness too. You know, I wouldn't underestimate that. I think they're very well conditioned mentally and physically, and I think that's where they see they can be better than other teams by, you know, high ball and play time, but also getting the speed of the game up to attack wherever that space is. And they've got better when they're connected between forward and backs. But they will have, you know, James Law's left boot, which is long.
Yeah.
Hugo Keenan is back, and they'll have a big boot at 10.
They've got
whoever it is.
They've got that. Yeah, you mentioned it. The connection between forwards and backs. That's kind of when their speed of ball is good. Everything looks smooth. Everything looks slick. Everything looks like we've just said, easier. And the way the handling ability of their forwards will hopefully play into the hands of Jack Crowley, Sam Prendergast, and give those boys a little bit more time if they win the collisions. But that's the big thing for this Irish team. I feel like you look at the game against South Africa in the autumn, the game against New Zealand, or the last sort of 20, 25 minutes against New Zealand, they got physically dominated, and that all those nice shapes and attack, as you know, go out the window in terms of, and then it's all about, can you find territory? Can you pick up 3 points? Can you manage a game? So it's a really interesting one, what they do. And I think we're sitting here, we're saying we don't really have an absolute answer. What we're trying to do for everyone listening and watching.
I don't think anyone does.
No.
And that's
half
your key point, I think, where you, as a coach, have to have a really good plan. It's a really good plan till you get a punch in the nose. And then after that, if you can't win collisions, you're not going to win the game. And that's the reality of what happens in sport. But like, can you what happens when plan A doesn't work? Are players good enough to resort to plan B? And is the plan B efficient enough? Because it's a fascinating contrast of styles between the structure and the high tempo of Ireland, with everyone knowing their role and being pinpointing their accuracy and blowing out at the clean outs and having ball on the plate for your 9 and 10, as opposed to a France's game of kind of north-south battering teams, playing off the cuff, but also playing rugby in front of them, where if you're winning or you're losing, it still kind of remains the same. While I think the panic comes in naturally when you play a certain type, which is high ruck speed, high number of rucks, very, very detailed in who goes where and why. And if you can keep that ball speed, then you're going to have a product day. But if you get a Mafu who decides that, okay,
you're not having quick ball today.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're sort of finishing this up in terms of a synopsis or I think we've all probably come to the same decision as everyone else. We're probably not quite. There's no clear out and out front runner, is there? I think there's positives and negatives in all three candidates. I think, are we of the opinion that, so to wrap up, do you believe that Andy Farrell has to make a call and go all in on someone, or do we think that there's still time to leave this play out and leave them challenge each other for the next Six Nations summer before the World Cup sets upon us?
I'm sure he has thought long and hard about this, obviously, because it's the key man. It's the key man in any rugby team. But what he's presented with is three options with differing stages. One is new on the scene. The other guy is older but with more rugby, but with less minutes. And then there's Jack Crowley, who's actually 26 now, isn't he? So, like, in 2 years' time, he'll be coming into his best years as a 10. He'll be wanting Jack to, I think he'll be looking at kind of Jack going, you don't need to be telling me what you need to do with this team. You need to grab hold of this team. Yeah. And at that age, it should resonate with him. With a Sam Prendergast, everything has come quickly and his development has been astonishing and his game has so many positives. He has, I suppose, in the test warfare, one significant improvement, which is he just got a leg tackle. And that's not as easy as it seems, because you have some unbelievably good 12s, blindside wingers, back rows coming, but you just got to try, and for me that's...
Or I'll find a way of potentially...
But even in the phase game...
Yeah, you can't hide it.
You know, you just can't. It's just because DuPont will find you.
Yeah.
And he'll scan, you know. You look at some of the tries he creates for Toulouse, it's off the Richter scale, you know. But and then I think what has been, I suppose, interesting has been Harry Byrne's, I suppose, resilience, because it would be easy with, I suppose, the amount of knockbacks he has got to kind of go, well, maybe this isn't for me, but he's shown exactly what you want in a player to kind of go, okay, well, I've gone out, I've made my circumstances better by going on loan. A lot of people don't do that then. A lot of those guys will go, I'll stay there. But no, and Leinster wanted him back, and Leinster play him in a lot of the big games. You know, he played Leicester away, which is a big game, and he's done well. And he's also had, I suppose, really interesting, his, you know, in the final kick against La Rochelle on the right hand. It's a big moment for a guy. It's I really like that.
To grab the ball and say, I want it.
Yeah, and then there's no point missing it when you do that. But do you get me? Yeah. Because a lot of people will go, oh, I really admire what he did, but
yeah, you've got to knock it over then. Yeah,
you know, but taking the tee is the easy bit. He nailed it, middle of the middle, you know. So like that's, as you know, that's a pressure kicker. That's
what's our line? We know a lot of good goal kickers, not many good pressure kickers.
It makes the difference. You that's maybe a topic for another day, but you see pressure as a goal kicker maybe once a season.
Yeah.
If you've had a good season, or twice a season, sometimes you mightn't see it at all, but it'll bite you.
Kind of like what we tried to do in this sort of video is trying to give everyone a bit of an insight of, okay, where are the strengths of Prendergast, Crowley, what gets into a coach's mindset and things like that. So I think we're probably none the wiser of who gets the jersey, but I think there's loads of sort of merit for this guy or this guy, and I think
the key point is that it's probably definitely in Ireland. It's seen as a split debate.
How big is that 10 jersey in Ireland?
The 10 jersey in Ireland has always been a famous jersey. You know, it's disappointing because in Ireland people point out what they're not good at, and they're human, and they hear that back, you know. While for a 22-year-old, if I was like Prendergast at that age, you'd be going, oh my God, how good is this guy?
Ridiculously good, yeah.
You know? And then it's like, well, Jack can't do that, and Harry can't do that, and Sam can't do that. You're like, okay,
you want to be focusing on what they can do.
Just, well, like, they're really, really good players. The challenge for them is one of them is going to kick on, and one of them will succumb, and one of them might peter out of the race. But like, it's like, as a coach, you ask your players, well, who's the competitor here?
And that's what you want to see, isn't it?
Absolutely, like, because sometimes it hasn't got to do with
Skill
playing
or
the number
tactical
10.
ability.
It's just who's the competitor here, who's showing up.
But that's kind of the big thing. This Six Nations, you have literally got 5 games.
Yeah.
And if you look at before that first World Cup game, say in Australia, Ireland have probably got what, 15, 16 games. So
Yeah.
you're thinking you and you're right in what you're saying. You can't, if someone does his ACL or if someone is sick the morning of the game, 100% get that. But I think at some point there has to be and it may have to be one of these players grabs it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But as you said, like we were talking between ourselves, it's like England saw, like George Ford has done really, really well in an England shirt. So he's the man in possession. But say, for example, if that last game was 6 months ago, and this isn't the case, but he was having challenging games with Sale and Finn Smith and Marcus Smith were ripping it up, there'd be a clamber for one of the two of them to start. But like the last time we saw George Ford in an English jersey, he was manipulating New Zealand with his strategy around the pitch, and he was really good. So in his head, well, the last time I played in this team, I was in top form, so I should be getting the jersey. And I think that's fair too, even though he may not have had good club form, because guys are smarter than you think too. They pick their games and they know when to peak, and they know
the older you get, yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But which is a skill in itself. But to be able to do it on the big day, you got to back it up.
So are we saying, could one bad or average game potentially lose you the Irish jersey here?
For me, I feel it feels like that's the way it's been over the last 12 months, doesn't it? In terms of the shift in power from post-France last year in the Six Nations, where Crowley has now started 4 out of the last 6 games. Prendergast started 6 out of 6 previously. I feel like there's unless this one of these guys goes and dominates the shirt, there's going to be discussion, and there's going to be, because it's not like you're dealing as well with, it's not like you've got a George Ford who's 100 capper, been there, done it, and you've got Marcus and Finn Smith who are brilliant, exciting new players on the block. Marcus not so much on the block, but in terms of less experience.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it comes down to a relationship with the coach. What does the coach want? The coach will have a feeling about one of them. For me, that'll dictate it.
For me,
so it would always happen that way for me, in the fact that, okay, well, if Farrell is whatever sweet on Byrne, he'll go with Byrne. And I think that's what makes good coaches really good, in the fact that they trust their instinct against the common perception because of what they see. But he can't be sweet on all 3 at the same time. Do you get me? But he'll have a feeling from having seen this player over a period of time that this is my man. I'm in on him. Then if he's a bad game, he's going to go, oh, I need to review that again. But it would be unlikely that in one game his opinion will switch. But over a poor campaign, yes, maybe.
I think it's a campaign. I think this is a really big campaign for the Ireland 10 debate. I think if one of these 3 or one of the 2 more than likely can really go and assert themselves in that shirt, I do believe that there's more. That gives Andy Farrell more evidence and more money in the bank to say, do you know what? We are going to potentially build with you to the next stage. And I go back to the point I made about, if I'm Jack Crowley, if I'm Sam Prendergast or Harry Byrne, I'm going into that camp and I'm almost wishing that Andy Farrell comes to me and says, look, don't worry about making mistakes. I want you to be our more of a focal point this campaign, and we want you to sort of drive the team around.
Yeah, but you're thinking like a player.
Yeah. But that's why it's so interesting having you.
No, but
and us discuss it.
But like,
because you're giving that coach's perspective.
Like, we haven't another guy who's 28, is it, Kieran Frawley, and Simon McConaughey to play number 10, who
wants to get himself in that mix as well.
Who's kicked the winning drop goal in South Africa and ruled himself out because he's not in the shop window. He's not playing 10, so like, he's not going anywhere. And I think he's been around, and maybe he's very, very talented. Can he keep playing 10 week in, week out and get his game even better? That'll be interesting to see, because I think with the situation in Ireland, a big campaign or who's going to grab hold of the shirt? None of them are going anywhere. So if you want to be in the team, you got to perform. But that performance needs to be repeatedly, game after game after game, because they've had their periods of dominance, and Jack is maybe 24 months ago where he was at a level where he had just taken over seamlessly from Johnny Sexton, which is a big, big compliment. But he didn't kick on.
Yeah, that's the bit. He sort of, it looked as if that was going to be the progression, didn't it? And then it sort of, Sam Prendergast's development came along. If you were not asking your opinion, who do you think starts that France game? If you're a betting man and you're Andy Farrell, who do you think Andy Farrell picks for that France game in Paris?
For whatever reason, I have an inkling that Harry Byrne is in the conversation.
Not just dismissed.
No, sorry, to start the French game as opposed to, shall we say, an Italy game or a Wales game, with all due respect, you know, because I think he's put himself in that debate that maybe this is the guy that can take control of the team.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. I think it's just in Prendergast's favour to start that France game, and it's a bit of a horses for courses during the campaign. Then you enjoyed that, Rob, didn't you?
That was a nose fest. I just sat quietly and just listened.
What's that word?
Nose fest.
Okay, yeah.
We need to translate it.
Yeah. We have got subtitles available for Rog as well on the pod. So no, it's great. Appreciate you coming in, Rog, and giving your take on the hot topic in Irish rugby at the minute.
Yeah. But exciting times for those boys in green, especially those number 10s. They're
loads to look forward to.
A lot of dreaming and, like me, a few nightmares.
Thanks, gents.
Cheers.
But before you go, Biggs, don't go anywhere just yet. Ahead of the Six Nations, I've got a couple of listeners' questions for you here.
Are these listeners' questions or are they Rob's questions?
I listen to the pod, so same thing. Same.
Yeah.
No, we put it out on Instagram.
Okay,
so I've rifled through the hundreds of messages we got, and I've got some of the best ones for you here.
Okay, let's hear them.
Best bit of crack ever shouted at you from the crowd, and did anything ever put you off? I bet some people have shouted some stuff at you in your time.
You'd be surprised, not be surprised to hear that I wouldn't have been a shrinking violet, and people would have enjoyed giving us a bit. The one thing I do find really quite entertaining. I played my first game for Northampton after I signed in the summer. I played in Kingsholm, and the Shed obviously being quite a hostile place to play. And I put like 3 restarts out on 2 not 10 meters and then 1 out on the full or something. And then after the third one, the Shed was basically what a waste of money. And I was in the middle of the pitch thinking, oh, jeepers. Luckily, my sort of performances in a Saints shirt went.
You did
in my opinion, anyway. people made change, but I thought that was quite entertaining from the Shed.
Anything in a Wales jersey, or are the stadiums too big? Yeah,
stadiums generally are a bit too big for anything like that. So I wouldn't have had much. During COVID, it was quite challenging though, because you could kind of hear yourself echoing around the you know what I mean. So sort of. G-ing a few bottles. Some words of encouragement is the words I would use. Bollocking may be another word people may use. But it's hard in those big stadiums to really pick up too much sort of banter flying around,
What about opposition players? Anyone ever given you some crack from the opposition?
Anthony Watson gave me one where he played England. He'll hate me for this as well. But basically we were sort of, he went up for a high ball and I think he put his foot out on my leg or whatever like that and caught me. And then I was sort of making my point, and then he sort of shouted from across the scrum where we were lining up against each other, and he was like, Biggs, if you don't like the smoke or don't like the heat, get out the kitchen. And honestly, to this day, the pair of us are still every time we see each other, it's like that's like how we sign off a message or something. So it's some pretty bad ones, yeah.
Right, then this one's coming from a Welsh fan. He says, which young players are you most excited about seeing take the team forward this Six Nations?
Oh, it's challenging because I think any young players coming into this Welsh team at the minute, it's not easy work to have a real impact because of the struggles on the pitch and obviously off the pitch. But I like the look of somebody like an Eddie James in the centre. I think I like the look of Mason Grady. And I think mainly because I think Wales are probably lacking that sort of power department. And I think you can have all the nice shape, the nice play and everything that you want in your game, unless you can get yourself going forward. And I think that's what I quite like about those two selections. Now, whether they feature in every game or all the time or whatever, I just think that gives Wales a little bit more of a different dynamic to play rather than trying to be nice and neat and tidy, and try and get some real physicality in their game. And how they use them will be a challenge. It's not just simply just give them the ball and expect them to run over people. It's how they can put them into space and use them in the right areas. So those two, I think, have got sort of lots and lots of potential to bring a physicality to this team, which perhaps they haven't had for a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of 6'4", 6'5", 100-odd plus kilo players in the centres. That'll help you out, won't it?
Well, pretty much my whole career playing with sort of Jamie Roberts, Jonathan Davis. So they were handy for very handy as a 10 to be able to just sort of give them the ball. I think Mason Grade will play a lot on the wing, but I think the ability for those guys to come in and carry off 10 in the midfield is pretty handy. And like I said, you look at someone like a Jamie Roberts, someone like a John Davis, who, George North, Cuthbert in that sort of mould. They fit that mould a little bit more than potentially a ball player. But I think it's important that they have a ball player at 12, whether that's Ben Thomas, whether that's Joe Hawkins or whoever. But those two will give them a bit of a different dimension. Yeah.
If you're selecting a World 15 today, so put your coaching hat on.
Even though I'm not a coach.
Even though you're not a coach.
Fine.
Well, Toulon under 14's kicking coach.
Yeah.
Who are you selecting at 10? If you're picking it today.
Today.
You need him to kick all of his goals, orchestrate a team.
All I want is to kick a goal, Andre Pollard. Done. No, I think Feinberg and Gunizulu probably gets the nod.
I thought you might say that. That's why I dropped in the kicking.
Yeah, I think that the only slight concern on his brilliant game is the goal kicking, but I think his all-round game, everything else is absolutely world class, and I think he's got the world at his feet a little bit at the minute, and the way that South Africa play. Yeah, I think he's probably the best 10 in the world currently. So yeah, I'd play Pollard at 12 to kick the goals though.
Well, I was going to say, I know in your World 15, you're probably picking Ramos at fullback as well, so just let Ramos boot them all
Basically,
over.
I'm just going to pick any player who can goal kick is getting in that team, yeah.
Right, this is an interesting one, actually. So in today's game, what's more valuable, a 10 who controls the game or a 10 who can rip it apart in moments?
You look at the successful 10s over the last... And the game has changed because the scores are, there's way more sort of 45, 30 games now than there used to be. But I'm a firm believer in a 10 at international level. The most important thing you need to be doing is you need to be probably playing at 7 out of 10 most weeks and doing the basics and putting your team in the right areas, not wasting the energy of your team. Keep the game in front of your pack of forwards. And more often than not, when you do those things, the big breaks or the X factor moments come anyway. I think Finn Russell is a brilliant example of someone who's developed the wrong word, but changed his game slightly in the last couple of years, where he would have those moments where he ripped it apart 6, 7, 8 years ago. You look at him now, he's the complete 10 in terms of quite often, especially for Bath, it can just go through game almost not having any impact, and then all of a sudden one moment comes and it's X factor moment or produces a try or an assist. But his game is so much more solid now, and I think then things come on top. So for me, you look at the successful 10s in terms of who've been winning. George Ford is in the form of his life at the minute, and he is very much not a 10 who's going to rip it up in terms of line breaks here, line breaks there, and things like that. Intermac, and I know he's a little bit sort of under pressure from Jalibert, but you look at how he's been successful and what they've won with him as 10 in France.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not the player to absolutely, he's especially in that French team when you've got Dupont inside you. I just think it's international rugby in particular. Club rugby may be slightly different, but I think what's really interesting is if you were asking every forward in the Six Nations, that question, I reckon you'd have 99% of them who say a 10 who controls.
Which Six Nations stadium has the most hostile atmosphere?
Probably Paris. It's a strange one, Paris, because Paris is, when the French team are on top of you, it feels like there's nothing you can do. The whistles when they're on top of you, the noise and everything. It's a really tough place because you're playing against a good team. But quite often we played France. We had a really good record. I think I won 4 times in Paris. So it kind of flips as well. So it's kind of the probably the French team would say it's the most hostile for them when things go and the whistles come for their team and the boos start coming. And so I find that's probably the most hostile. But interesting enough, I actually find the most difficult atmosphere I found was Dublin, because it's absolutely pin silent. You can hear a pin drop when you're goal kicking. It's sort of really respectful, and from especially from a goal kicking point of view, I found that harder than when there was boos and when there was cheering, and because it feels like every single person is absolutely eyes are on you. Whereas when there's boos or cheers or noise, maybe you feel like 70% of the crowd are watching you or something, So I found Dublin the most difficult from a kicking point of view, but probably from the most hostile point of view, Paris can get like that. But there's no better feeling when you get the crowd to turn on their team as well.
From an opposition coach's view, what aspects of Wales' game can still challenge the big teams?
The ball playing ability, they've still got some, they've scored 4 tries against Argentina, 4 tries against New Zealand. So I would certainly be classing those 2 as big teams. So if they can produce they're playing a lot more off 10. So they're looking to shorten the defensive line, looking to play to edges a bit more and use their forwards and their ball playing 12s to get the ball into the wide channels more often than not, because they can't physically match, can go into an arm wrestle with teams at the minute. So I think that is the side of the game where the attacking side is very much I wouldn't say in brilliant working order, but it's challenging. If you're scoring 4 tries against Argentina, 4 against New Zealand, then you're doing something okay. So I think teams will be looking at that saying we can't give Wales lots of possession, because if they have lots of possession, they've got nice, tidy players who can create problems and get the ball into wide channels with pace. The tactic probably against Wales will be how can we strangle the game as much as possible and assert our physical dominance and aerial dominance, which have been probably the 2 biggest work-ons for Wales. But I definitely think from an attacking point of view, they'll want to limit Wales's possession so that they can't use the nice phase shape and play which they showed against Argentina and New Zealand in the autumn.
I suppose from a consistency point of view as well, that's the one aspect of the team where, they've got Matt Sherratt there. He was previously head coach before. So that's sort of the one area of the team where there is that bit of consistency.
And they've probably had the longest time to imprint that. Steve Tandy came in the autumn and clearly the focus was maybe on getting the attacking shape in better order. Now, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And, obviously that we saw against Japan, the frailties in the attacking game. But I think there's something to work on there. And you would be, if you're a coach of a Six Nations team playing Wales, you'd say, okay, well, they've got the ability to score tries, limit how much ball they get so they don't have as many opportunities.
Are England as good as they're being hyped up to be?
You want me just to say yes here, don't you? Because you want me to say
no, I want you to be honest. I want you to be honest.
It's very difficult to... It's like anything, in England, whether it's the football, whether it's the rugby team, there's always bigger interest and there's always maybe an extra 10% added on top. And I think Steve Borthwick's done a really good job of trying to keep that and the squad trying to keep them a little bit grounded. But very difficult to argue from their 2025, 11 wins on the spin. There's a clear gap between them and the Springboks. But if you're looking at everyone I speak to, whether that's Welsh people, Irish people, Australian, but whatever, everyone's saying England looking good on them. And I think they're only going to get better in the next 12 months as well. So I suppose the answer probably is yes, but I think it's caveated with there's still a big gap between them and South Africa. But I also think there's a bit of pressure on England. I think the answer is yes, they are as good as they're being hyped up to because they're a really good team at the minute. But if that comes with pressure in itself, that they have to be in the hunt in Paris to win. There's no shame in losing to France in Paris to not win the championship at all. But I think they have to get to Paris with something to play for, with a championship to play for them to have that tag as well.
Well, thanks, mate.
Was that a nice enough answer for England for you?
Yeah, bit of a cop out, mate. I wanted you to say like yes or no.
Just go with it. Just go. It's coming home. It's coming home.
I'll take that. Well, thanks, Biggs.
Cheers, Rob.
Pod. Rugby pod.